Thank you, Sheena.
How's it,
Okay.
Corey?
Oh, what's up, Josh?
Yeah, no, just I just jumped on. Sorry, I didn't just caught the last few seconds of what you're talking about. But yeah, just rates went up. So I this morning I think I had owner occupants at like 4.375, and I think investments what was investments at this morning? Like 4.875, so half a percent higher. And that's 20% down on the owner occ, excellent credit, and then on the investment side, 4.875, excellent credit, 25% down. So that's where we're at this morning. And those are the nearest to par rates.
Okay. Oh, that's good to know. Yeah, thanks, Josh,
Yep.
for keeping us up to date. Because so 4.375 for standard owner occupant, and then 4.875 for like an investment loan, right?
Yeah, that's just one of the lenders that I had priced this morning.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. That's actually not too bad. I mean, um, we're gonna get the update, I think, today after our call, on what's going on with like more of the private commercial lending and where we're gonna be, because rates have gone up as well for us. Right now we start at 5.125 for the 30-year fixed. But they've been falling somewhere in the mid fives to 6%, I believe. So something that we always got to keep eyes on, right? Especially in these times, because it does affect our space. And speaking of stuff that affect our space, there is currently right now a discussion in California for a bill that will is designed basically to kill the fix and flip industry. I don't know if you guys have heard of it or have been following it, but it's actually very unreasonable in my opinion, and it could be very detrimental to our industry. So I'm gonna get the National Private Lenders Association is following this, and alongside the American Association of Private Lenders, or otherwise known as Apple. And so yesterday, Apple put on a webinar basically talking about this bill that has a chance of passing in California. And this bill is proposing a 25% additional tax on properties that are bought and sold within 7 years. So they will consider that like a fix and flip kind of deal. Okay, so and that's 25% additional tax on that. So this bill clearly is designed to eliminate the fix and flip space, right? So right now, all the private lenders, some of the big associations like the National Private Lenders Association and Apple are working on it, but they have kind of asked for everybody in our space to stand together against this, because even though you may not do business in California, California is alongside New York and Illinois. It is a pass-through state, so other states do watch what moves they make, and they do implement similar bills. Maybe not as harsh as this one in California, but New York last year did have one on the table, and I think it was for a 15% additional tax. And it was for properties that were bought and sold within 2 years. So it wasn't as harsh as this one that we're seeing in California. But if these states do try to or do pass if it does go through, then other states can follow, and it will affect all of our businesses, right? So it's something to be aware about, and we may have to, do our part. And maybe it's with testimonials, before and after pictures that we submit, when we can submit to the association so that they can present, and then they might reach out to you, to maybe be a spokesperson to help voice our opinions on this matter, because they truly don't understand the value that we bring. And Apple did a great job. I was only able to catch the end of the webinar yesterday, but I feel they did a great job using data, showing how much real estate investors like ourselves affect our local markets, right? We provide a lot of jobs, a lot of opportunity for real estate service providers. And for us, we know that we provide, wealth building opportunities for our private investors. We're cleaning up neighborhoods, right? So they're grouping us into, I feel, one bucket, that we're sitting with some big developers, right? These big development companies that are gentrifying neighborhoods that may not need to be gentrified. But right now, when we are seeing a housing shortage in the millions across the nation, I don't think it's the right time to really developers or investors, so like ourselves. So with that said, I should stay tuned, because every week we'll probably be having some updates, and maybe if anybody wants to work a little closer in playing our part, then feel free to reach out to me. But does anybody have any opinions on this being passed in California, or trying to be passed in California?
Corey, I think one thing we could probably do with the newsletter next month is we got a link to the recording of the Apple video. We could put that link in our newsletter if everyone would be interested in being able to watch that recording and see the information, because it was recorded.
Perfect. Yes, we can. Yeah, we should kind of distribute that. So yeah, do you know how we get the recording, Alex? Did you say?
We got an email yesterday from Apple after the webinar was done with a link to the recording. So I'm sure we can just share that link and everybody will be able to watch it.
Perfect. All right. Yeah, thanks, bro. I didn't see that come through, so we'll look for that, and maybe we'll post it in the Facebook group. But okay, why don't we start with needs, deeds, and good deeds? We have a kind of a small room today, which can be good, because if anybody needs anything, now's the time to speak up, right? We can pull our resources together. Does anybody have any deals on the line? Hey, Tay.
Hi. So kind of wanted to share a little bit. I do have a deal that we just went under contract today. So I'm kind of working on the scope of work right now to send the project manager and contractor. It is in Indianapolis. But I wanted to either put it out there or ask anyone. My refinance appraisals are coming lower than expected, and I fought one of two right now, which I was able to raise by 25K, which is huge. But yeah, we're still waiting on the answer for another one. But I'm hearing from like other investors in Indy that on purchase, appraisals tend to be pretty accurate with what you're going with, for your lender, if you're using a lender on the appraisal for the purchase. But once you're into a refi, they tend to like really get harder on you and on the refinance. Does anybody have either experience with that or tips? Because I'm trying to, I feel like every time I'm dealing with an appraisal, I'm having to, I'm always learning when there's an appraisal. Like there's always something new to learn. So if anybody has tips.
Well, yeah, we've been having just problems with the appraisers, and like, so we're all seeing the same thing, and whether it's on the conventional side or the commercial side. So just speaking from, our experience over the last, I'd say month to month and a half, we've been battling this issue with appraisers. One is that if there's not enough of them, even across the nation, we're finding, and because of that, a lot of them have doubled their prices, and they're all maybe in some of the major markets that we're closing deals in. It's like they're like 4 weeks out now, when before they're about two weeks out, right? So there's the timing, and then there's the accuracy. So I feel that it's always a crapshoot when when you're dealing with appraisals, because values are arbitrary already, and the appraisal report sometimes can be very detailed, and if appraiser doesn't quite know what they're doing yet, because maybe they're still a couple of years in, it can cause some major problems. So the only thing that I can think of is that if you're like doing a bird deal, then you'll have your target ARV, right? I would conservatively take maybe like 5% of that, bring it down, maybe 5 or even 10, depending on how much of a difference that is, right? And what market is that in, Tay?
Indianapolis. So it's almost like I should be all in 60% instead of 70% to try and refi out, just to be on the safe side. Like there's either going to be no money in the deal after the refi or very little. Yeah, so the thing is, so I tried doing a DSCR a month and a half ago, and those appraisals came in high, but I don't know why I ended up not going with him because I didn't like him. So then I went with another lender, and their appraisals came in quite low. I'm like, this is what? Like, this is a month apart. There's no way. Nothing else got sold. So yeah, I'm just fighting appraisal is kind of hard too.
Okay, like I can give an example. Like I had a property on the North Shore. I had 3 appraisals done in a window of 1 refi, and they came out about $700,000 difference from the lowest to the highest. So appraisers are, especially if it's off market, so if there's no listing photos, there's no MLS, there's no realtor sort of backing up the pricing, appraisers are just shooting in the dark. They really like to piggyback off the work of the realtor. They're assuming that the agent had done a lot of the digging, so they'll try to justify that price. But whenever someone's trying to sell off market, they're trying to do a refi, those appraisers tend to be a lot less consistent because they don't have any basis to work off of. And I always love that example of 700,000. I was like, how? Like one came in, they were using like condos as comps and something that didn't even make sense. And then the other one was using like completely different neighborhood. And it was just be diligent on gathering your data. You can dispute an appraisal.
Yeah, so which I did. Yeah. Thank you. So it sounds like it's a general thing and you just got to go to battle. And it's almost like common, I guess, in our line of business to have to go to battle with appraisers. It's just incredibly inconsistent. Like there was a difference of $100,000 between a month ago and like last week. In Indy, that's crazy. Like 10, 30 maybe, but not 100K difference.
Did you give them that other appraiser's appraisal? And then, yeah.
Yeah, I'm fighting it. That's crazy. Okay, thank you.
Good luck, Tay. Yeah, hopefully it works out. I think the way to try to mitigate anything that may arise with the valuation on the back end is to kind of just have your target ARV, but be prepared to come to the table if you have to, if the appraisal comes in, a few percentage points lower, which could mean, 100 grand sometimes, right? So this will be try to prepare for anything or any valuation problems on the back end. But I really feel that the appraiser industry is going to be disrupted. It kind of already is. I feel that some I'd say not all, of course, but some appraisers, they got greedy, and during this last year or 2 years, it was kind of it was the good times, right? Because the rates were low, people have equity in their houses, so there was refis left and right. I'm sure Justin could speak of this, and now it's starting to slow down though, right? Because rates are going up, and so that kind of market is drying up a little bit. And in fact, just if you're still able to speak, do you know how the mortgage application rates, did it drop substantially maybe since the beginning of the year, or is it kind of seeing the same ratio? Because I've been hearing in different markets the applications have been going down substantially.
Yeah, volume has definitely gone down. Just because, I mean, from what I'm seeing, just the refis are just not there anymore. I have one going, and it's only because of divorce. It has nothing to do with interest rates and saving money and all of that. So yeah, volume is down.
Gotcha. Okay. So for Hawaii as well, it looks like it's slowing down a little bit. Yeah, appraiser, like that's been a big issue for us, and we should have some news coming out from our side as well. That should be good news for all of us. We're trying to find a way to still mitigate our risk as the lender, but at the same time kind of get around having to get appraisals on every deal that we do. So exciting news, I like sometimes when like problems arise, there's usually opportunity somewhere in there. So we might be coming out on the other end of this, and maybe perhaps we can help solve that problem you got over there in Indy. So stay tuned. All right, guys. Well, if anybody has anything else that they have to share or they need help with, feel free to drop it in the chat or unmute. But today I wanted to, we have a special guest who I've known probably since 2016 or 15. Her name is Shannon Barbour. And I wanted to just kind of introduce her to the group. And her husband, Kevin, are doing deals here. She is a licensed realtor as well. And I just gotta say, Shannon, that you guys have the cutest family. All the family photos that you guys post and stuff, it brings a smile to my face. So welcome to the call, and thanks for jumping on. And can you just quickly introduce yourself, and then maybe tell us how you guys came here to Hawaii and kind of laid roots, and what that was like getting into real estate here.
Okay, so yeah, me and my husband, we've been married over 30 years now. We actually got married in Hawaii in 1985 at Haiku Gardens. My family was living here then, and our oldest was born here. We have 4 kids. We then went back to Kansas for 28 years. And my dad, so we first moved to Hawaii in 74 when I was little. My dad started a construction company here. So when we came, we left for a while, then we came back in 84, and Kevin came in and started work for my dad. My dad was flipping houses here, and his partner was a real estate agent. And so at 19 years old, he made me get my real estate license. So funny story is when I got my real estate license here, when we moved back, I have that exact number from way back then. So it looks like I've been doing real estate in Hawaii for 30 some years, but I wasn't. It was just really strange. But so that's how we started flipping here when I was super young, went back to the mainland. We had a construction company there. Kevin had a stucco company for years. We were home builders. He ran the stucco business. I was actually the general contractor for our home building business. 4 kids back there. And then January 2014, we saw something on TV, and without me even knowing about it, my husband sent all 4 adult kids a text with a picture that said, "Would you, could you?" And within 5 minutes, they all said yes. And 4 months later, we were all here.
Wow.
We didn't have a huge plan on what we were going to do. We just said, you know what, let's just go for it. We ended up finding a house while we were still in Kansas. That's where we're from. Here to buy that we knew we were going to flip. So we came over and we took a look at it. And when we got here, we rented in Makaha, bought this house in Waianae, rehabbed it, and ended up moving into it. And then that's when I met you shortly after that, when I started going to some network meetings and stuff then. But we came here with 1 grandbaby. We now have 6 grandbabies. Everyone's in Makaha and we love it. It's amazing. The girls work with me in the real estate. They have their license now. My husband, son, and son-in-law do the rehab on the projects that we work on. And it's been great. It's been wonderful. And we've sort of created our own little oasis out here that's all about our babies.
What a story. And so you and Kevin saw an ad on TV or something?
He was watching one of those Hawaii Lives.
Oh, Hawaii Life.
So this was like January. It was freezing cold. We were getting ready to go somewhere. I was like in the bathroom getting ready, and he saw it. We never talked about moving back. It was nothing we ever brought up, or it wasn't in the plan or nothing. He just saw that. So then he jumped on like Redfin or Zillow or something, and he found a property. And he's just like, I want to do this. And so without me knowing, he sent the kids that text, and they all said yes. And then he came in the bathroom and told me, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute. And it just snowballed. That property didn't work out. It was a leasehold. And we're like, no, but it just literally, I mean, I was like, we have to sell our house that we're in. I sold it 2 days later. And yeah, it was just, everything just fell into place. And 4 months later, we were all here.
And 4 months later, you guys are all here.
Yep,
Wow.
us with 5 vehicles. We brought a 45-foot container of stuff, way too much stuff, another trailer of stuff. And yeah, it was chaos.
Wow. So were you guys investing in real estate already in Kansas or at the time?
So
or
we were home builders. So the house that we live in here right now, this is the 20th house that me and Kevin personally have lived in since we've been married. So we've always rehabbed, remodeled, built brand new every 3 to 4 years in the little small town that we lived in. But we also were builders we did spec homes. We were partners in a development, and we did custom builds. And then we ran the stucco business. So,
wow. So
yeah.
Are those companies still running, or did you guys
No,
just pick
so
up and shut it down?
08 wiped everything out.
Oh.
In 08, the developments that we were in, the banks took back a lot of stuff. We came out okay, but barely. I mean, we didn't have any major things, but business just went to crap. Yeah. The builders that Kevin was doing all the stucco for, most of them just walked into the banks and handed the keys over to the houses that they were doing at the time. Yeah, it was really bad. So no.
Yeah. Wow.
There's a few still going in Kansas City that were around then, but for the most part, no.
Okay. So, and what year was that when you guys moved here?
14.
14. Okay. Yeah, I think it was around 15 or 16.
Right.
Yeah, we started as meeting. I met you guys at the meetups and stuff. So from 2008 to 2014, 14, did you guys start the business again or?
No, he was, this is a funny story. So he still did his stucco. We didn't do any building of homes. He still did stucco. It just wasn't as much. He did a lot of existing work. I am a trained interior plasterer. I do like specialty finishes on plastering. And I was doing a lot of that in like the Kansas City market and like designer homes and stuff. Well, I ended up doing some work for a photographer that showcased some of my work. And I had people then start messaging me to do photography backdrops. So we actually had a pretty good run at doing custom photography backdrops on canvas. And we would travel all over the country with me going to these photography shows. And it was, yeah, crazy. So it was right before the large format printing came out. So all these photographers were buying me, and these were like on 12 by 12 pieces of canvas. I shipped them to Japan. I shipped them all over the world, but they were all finishes that I came up with that photographers were using. We had a floor system, a baseboard system, and everything. So it was crazy. So we did that for quite a few years.
Wow. So from that portion, so how, because most people that either went upside down in 2008 or came very close, most of them didn't want to touch real estate ever again, right?
Right. No, we felt that way. So we were lucky. We had a lake house that we had built. That was the only piece of property that we had our house in Palo, and then we had our lake house. We decided to sell our house in Palo and move down to our lake house. It wasn't that far from us. But that was an asset that we hadn't touched. It was free and clear. So when we sold that, that is what gave us the money to come here. And when we came here, we were able to come with no debt and rehab that house. And so that sort of just gave us our footing. Now, I will say, like when we first met in 2015, 2016, I was the one pushing us to those meetings. Kevin was the one standing back going, I don't know if I want to do this. And he now is the one who's like all in and just like, no, feels good to be back doing. So we were definitely gun shy for sure, without a doubt. And Kevin had never had a regular job. He had been self-employed almost his whole life. And he had landed a really good job here, which he still does work for them, but it's a really good job, but he has a lot of flexibility in it. But he doesn't like having a job. He'd rather be self-employed completely.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it definitely there. I have some PTSD definitely from everything that we went through in 2008.
I bet that also makes you a better investor though.
Oh, I look at everything.
Yeah. And that's one thing for me that, I've always kind of questioned, which I think is healthy for myself, because I started in 2011. And so I saw the remnants of the disaster that happened, I was walking the ashes, during that time, but I wasn't there, yet.
Right.
So I haven't experienced the the ride down. But I do know a lot of people who I respect who are still in the industry thriving, that I asked them what was it like during that time, and like what is the oh shit plan? Like what did you, what was your plan? Because
I have flashbacks of like the moments where you're sitting there going, what is happening?
Yeah.
How is this happening? And it was crazy.
I mean, it went global, right? It was an internet, like there was other the central banking system we're all kind of tied together, right? So even what's going on with Russia and all the sanctions, and they're starting to, feel the pain, that's going to affect us too, right? And we see it at the gas pump, we see it at the grocery store now. So we are kind of all tied. The economic system is kind of all tied together. So when I do hear, people who are investing and during that time, it's always something on my mind where it's like, okay, tell me about that time. I want to know, because I mean, if we follow market cycles, it's not a matter of if, it's when, right? And then how bad.
Right.
But I think now we're in a better position because hopefully we learned from what happened, right? And as much as we want to like hate appraisers right now, and we hate appraisals and stuff, when you bring up back then, it's like, okay, it is a pain. It could, cause you big problems and cost you money, but it is a necessary thing that we need in place. We need guardrails in place. Otherwise, people get greedy, right? And then everyone gets hurt. And so I have to stop myself, because sometimes the appraisal process just drives us crazy. And people lose money, they lose their deposit, they can't make closings, and they can't refinance anymore. So it is a problem that has to be worked on. And if we are going to move away from appraisals, I think we should do so very carefully, because we don't want another disaster like 2008, where I feel like we're at the peak of our industry, the real estate investor industry, after the Flip This House shows and the Fortune Builders, those guys were on that show, and HGTV, like, it's really put a spotlight on our industry, and we're kind of like at the peak of it. And I don't want to see anything like happen where we come back to where we were in 2008. So I'm happy that you guys were able to make it out of that, and not only that, but have the courage to step back in, to real estate. And then now here you guys are, you guys are closing deals, you're flipping properties, and let's talk about, I guess, how that all came about. When you came here to Hawaii, right? It was primarily just to live here and lay roots and live in Hawaii, or
Yeah, we knew that we would probably want to get into flipping. We knew that. Sort of to go back on your story about appraisers. So that we're looking at doing some investing back in Kansas City. I'm wanting to do some Airbnbs and stuff. So I called my appraiser. I didn't know if he was still in business. This is the guy that I used, 20 plus years ago for a whole bunch of deals back in Kansas City. I called him here, 10 days ago or so. And he's, still in business, but I was picking his brain about what's going on in Kansas City, what he has seen. He's been in the business forever. So, one of my little tidbits on that, the appraisers can be, a necessary evil, but also you can make them your ally. You can use them for information for other things. And Jim immediately was there to help me, give me advice, tell me what he's been seeing back there and everything. So again, it's about that relationship. And as a realtor, whenever any one of them calls me, I definitely pick their brain as much as I can, even though they're trying to pick my brain about what's going on. But so to talk about that, but we knew we would eventually get back into flipping. That's what we wanted to do, but we wanted, we needed to figure out what's Hawaii. So the part that definitely made Kevin feel good about doing it in Hawaii is the construction here is so different than on the mainland. We love the single wall houses, and my dad's work is all over the place from having a stucco company here, and it all still looks amazing. So literally Kevin can take a single wall house, stucco it, completely change the way it looks, and it's super easy, very inexpensive for him to do. The little house that we did in Waianae, that's what we did. So we knew that's what we wanted to get back into, but it was just a matter of figuring everything out. We came here and didn't have a network. There were some people we knew from years and years ago, but it wasn't that we had any contacts in this industry when we came. When we did our little house in Waianae, we didn't know a plumber, we didn't know an electrician, and we had so many of those contacts in Kansas City, and we were just sort of figuring it out on how to do it, where to get even, sand here and things like that to do stucco. It's just a lot different.
Right. I never thought of that.
Oh,
Oh,
everything. Yeah.
so single wall, you're the first person I've heard say that they like single wall.
Love it.
So
Love it.
okay, so he's stuccoing the exterior
Mm-hmm.
of the house.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, not the inside, right?
No, but
Okay.
so what my dad would used to do, my dad would then plaster the interiors of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, completely just change it. But yeah, no, just changing that outside. Oh, I see someone message stucco. Yeah. Oh yeah, no, it does. It adds an R value to the house. And it just completely sturdies up that house. There isn't any of that shifting and everything. Now, the little house that we did in Waianae, oh, it looks, and like I said, I see my dad's work all over the island from back in the 70s. It looks amazing.
Oh man, that's what a legacy, right? You can
Yeah.
drive by and just know that your dad.
My dad, my dad's hands were on that. We were, so we've been doing these condos, and in these condos, if anyone has seen our work, we're putting brick in the kitchen. That's not real brick. It's stucco that Kevin literally carves it to look like brick.
No
And
way.
yeah, it's super cool. And we were in a restaurant a few years ago, and all the kids were with us and all the grandbabies. And we sat down. It was like super hectic because there were so many of us. Sat down. I started looking around. I'm like, my dad's work is all over inside this restaurant. It was a little pancake house like on Dillingham or something. And he had done all the stucco brick inside this restaurant, and it was still there from the 70s.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh man, if you have a picture of it, I'd
Yeah.
love to see like what that looks like.
Yeah, no, I can send you a picture. Yeah, super cool.
Because one thing that I've gotten, we haven't gotten to work like on a project together at all, but just from watching you and is that your eye for design, but also with you and Kevin, and I'm sure many people who are on your team, your family as well. You guys are able to look at something like a rehab project as like a puzzle, but not just kind of throw in everything, the standard stuff from Home Depot or Lowe's. Like you'll use them, but there's little things that I noticed that, like the brick, right? Like the stucco brick, like stuff like that, where you can kind of save. It doesn't cost that much, but it's a wow factor.
Yeah.
It brings the whole room together.
Right.
And then the property takes on a personality and an energy, right? So, but it doesn't really break the budget.
No, so we pour a lot of love into our projects. I know, I mean, we're all like into the flipping thing, but I hate the negative that can come with that sometimes from people. And that's what I try to explain to them. Me and my girls are sitting around this table and sourcing, products and trying to find that different look. We work with wallpapers and stuff like that because I love the wallpaper, but just even taking, Kevin, he's able to build quite a bit of stuff for us. So he can custom, make something that wouldn't typically work, but we can add to it and then make it look completely different. So the design that we pour into these projects is a lot. We spend a lot of time talking, thinking. Design is a lot of my background from working with the builders on the mainland and doing custom homes. So it's what we love. We love taking a space and making it a home, making it something that someone's going to be proud of. And Kevin can't walk onto anyone's property without mentally how he's going to redesign it, redecorate it, rehab it. Yeah, it's what we like. The house that we're in now, it's just, people keep saying, this is the longest we've ever lived in a house. I'm like, it's because we have so many projects, because we didn't build it brand new. So we just keep changing everything.
Yeah.
Well, like to do.
Just looking in your background, like, sorry, I don't want to point out your house and stuff, but I just have to, like, the wallpaper, right? And I noticed too, and tell me if I'm correct. The the trim that you guys put on the ceiling, right? Is it because it was Koenig up there, or is it drywall?
Nope, this one was just plain and I didn't like it.
Yeah.
So I came up with this idea and now we do this. So we've been doing all these condos in one building. We just keep getting another one. We do this in every single one that we are in because it's cheaper than scraping the popcorn.
Yep.
And you can hide all the wiring in it. We have it down to such a science that the guys do it super fast that even if we were to try to just plaster smooth the ceiling, this is still a lot faster and it gives a lot of wow. People love it. So yeah, we can change the lighting and do everything and you don't see any of that. And it's just underneath the ceiling. So yeah.
So I remember, and I think I learned this from you guys at one of the meetings, because we had a property in Makakilo that we had to flip really quickly, actually. It was a tight deal. And I think to date, it might have been the fastest one we've done. It was like, we were done within 2.5 months. And in fact, we couldn't close it because the lender, it was a VA loan, I think. And at that time, and Ashley can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at that time we had to wait like 2 more weeks because it cannot be they can't land on something that's been bought and sold within 3 months. So we had to wait 90 days to close. But it wasn't an easy project, but we had Koenig ceiling where you can see the creases, the cracks, right?
Yep.
And then I think I learned this from you guys where you put trim over the crack. And so we did that and it looks so much better. And so instead of ripping out the Koenig ceiling, because there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it was still, nice. It's just, we just had to paint over it. But the trim just it made all the difference in the world. Instead of ripping everything out and having to fix the ceiling, which would have cost us a lot of money. Now, we just put trim over it, paint it, and it looks even more beautiful than if we were to just redo the ceiling. So
we actually have a shipping container on our property that we converted to a tiny home.
My cool.
Son and daughter-in-law lived in it for 2.5 years, and on that one, we did the little beam trim things on the sheetrock on the ceiling. So we put 1-inch foam on the whole interior. And then we did sheetrock over that. And we just put that so it helped, actually sits on another trim. So it helps support that sheetrock that's in there.
Yep.
But yeah, no, it looks super, super cool in there. And yeah.
Yeah, that was a great tip that saved me probably thousands of dollars. So thank you. Yeah, as a tip for everybody too on the call. There's a lot of that in Hawaii. Some of the older homes, there's Koenig ceiling, or and it's like, what do I do with this? Like, it doesn't look that bad, but
no, it doesn't look bad. And then a lot of the times it has like the open beams, which are great. So you want to work with it. You don't want to get rid of it.
Yeah. So, and it's perfect segue to my next question was, when you guys first look at a property, right? Because I like the way that you guys do little things here and there, I always thought that if we're gonna flip a house, if there's no ocean view or pool or something to give the wow factor, you gotta have 3 to 4 kind of things that will stop a buyer in their tracks, and it doesn't have to be expensive, doesn't have to be a pool or ocean view or something like that, but something, right? So, and that's one thing that every time I see what you guys do, there's always something in there that's oh, that's pretty cool, and it doesn't look like it would cost that much or take that long to do. So when you step into a project fresh and it's still in its as is condition, how do you guys start with processing what you're going to do and formulating the scope of work? And I'll just say to the group, because we know the deals that you guys are doing, right? We're thank you for coming to us for the
financing. You guys are a person, yeah.
Yeah, and, but we see, first of all, the speed is amazing. You guys are turning them quick, but I see the what you guys done. So how do you guys look at it when you first start? And who is that? Is that Kevin? Is it you? Is it
So
your
Kevin is
family?
always the one figuring out the construction part of it, how to rearrange a room. So, I always stand, like the house that we're working on in Kansas, I stand at that door and I look and I try to see what I'm gonna see when you first walk in, because that's what the people see. Like our little condos, I want them to walk in, I want them to see that cool farm sink, I want them to see that brick on the wall, and then that wallpaper. On the lanai, we do a little bar, and so they see that. So just their eye then has so much to like try to pick up. So my goal is when someone walks in a house, they walk in and you can see them just sort of stop and like look around. So I try to get a lot of texture, but a lot of everything, the same colors, but just little pops of stuff. On a house, the number one thing that I can say you can do for wow is landscaping.
Yep.
I think that is so important. If you don't have a view, if you don't have the pool, but that little house that we have in Waianae, that backyard, we made it lush. We made it so when they walked out there, they're just like, oh, I can live right in this space completely. Our property here, we have a little over an acre. We've planted over 1,000 plants. Plants are cheap in Hawaii. Grass is not cheap in Hawaii, but plants are cheap.
Yeah.
And so, just loading up with plants. When we do our open houses for our properties, I will go and pick up a lot of live plants. So when people come into just these condos, they have a lot of those live plants so they can, it feels different. It doesn't feel as barren. I think that's important, but we just try to think of function because of doing, we came from a house in Kansas that was 6,000 square feet. The house that we moved into here sat on a 6,000 square foot lot, and it was only 1,400 square feet. And at one point, there was a crap ton of us living in it. So the tiny living is what I always think about. I try to think about how you can give someone that feeling that they're living in something bigger and have storage and like connect the outside to the inside so it doesn't feel so small. There just isn't the space here. It's just different. And that's what the ways that you can just take space, rearranging kitchens so they still have storage because they need a place to put food and pots and pans and, for people to entertain. So we try to think about all of those types of things. And then we just sit down and we start sketching. We draw everything out, all the details, everything.
Oh, okay. So you guys draw like a sketch, not for like any plans or anything for permanent, right? It's just for yourself.
Yep. No, if you saw my table right now, all you'd see is drawings and stuff. That's to sketch everything out. And
that's because you have that artistic mind. You can tell you're also like an artist entrepreneur.
Yeah. And my husband can draw anything. I can't draw a circle. So I sketch, but it looks like my grandkids are drawing it. But yeah, he literally sits with the big sketch pad and he draws his own plans with all the dimensions and everything on them.
Wow, I totally would have thought it was you.
No,
I totally underestimated Kevin.
Yeah, exactly. And the funny thing is if you go back to any of our past homes, in some part of that home, if you were to take the drywall off, you will see on the walls inside the house his drawings of what that room's going to look like. He would do that all the time. Yeah, it's just we have photo albums of his old drawings and stuff like that because that's what he always did. I was telling him, I need you to draw this for me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and okay, so now this year, right? So what is your goal this year? Like I kind of already know, but exactly and what is the plans, I guess, for what's the I guess the end game?
Oh gosh, the end game, I can't even think about that yet because, we're trying to build this business with our kids.
Right.
Our kids are a huge part of what we are doing. Like I said, my daughter and my daughter-in-law both have their real estate license and are working with me. My son and my son-in-law work with Kevin on the design and everything. So our plan, of course, is, so back in Kansas, we're wanting to pick up some Airbnbs. Kansas City is booming, a lot going on. We have so many connections back there. We love going back there. Here, Airbnb is just so hard to do.
Yeah.
So that's not, but here, I mean, I have a goal of trying to do 15 flips this year is what we're going after. We've gotten lucky. We fell into this in this condo. We've done 5 projects in there. We are working on 2 others right now to buy. We made friends with the resident manager, the homeowners association president. They don't want us to leave that building. My son is tired of driving into that building. So we'd love to pick up some properties out here. We love Makaha. I love everything about this community. It's been so good to us. And
Oh,
we'd
wow.
love to do some things out here.
That warms my heart because like Makaha, right? Everybody, the Makaha is typically, that's like the most affordable place on the island right now, I believe.
Yeah.
Although it's quickly not becoming
Right.
affordable. But Makaha is known to, be a little bit more out there in the Wild West, right?
Right.
So the fact that you guys, you started here in Hawaii, but like 30 years later came back.
Yeah.
And not just came back to Hawaii, but moved and laid roots in Makaha, which is sometimes, there's still like prejudice out there, right?
Oh,
Amongst some, So
yeah.
That's it warms my heart for you to say that the community has like.
Oh, we have not had one negative experience. So it's almost 8 years, not one, none of my kids, nothing, not a single one. And when we first came and we told people we lived out here, they would look at us and be like, you guys live out there? I'm like, yeah, we do. We live out there. Our neighbors all around us on both sides have had their properties since the 40s. They are the best people ever. Our neighbors across the street are amazing. We've had to, have things worked on and things done. And it's been people who have suggested that live out here. Several of the, my contractors that I use for other things all live in Makaha around me. It's been amazing. I tell people all the time, do not underestimate this community out here. It is a good community. It has its issues, but it really is a solid place to live. We've loved it.
Oh, I love that. And it does say something, right? Like just as much as like the small few may have that prejudice in them, right? Shouldn't reflect upon the majority.
No,
right?
And I think if you come to this community not trying to change it, it is what it is. Our neighbors have 30 pigs over there. We knew they had pigs when we bought our property. The people who had it before them didn't like it and caused a lot of problems. I bought this knowing this. I am never going to say a thing about it. And they have appreciated that and we have appreciated them. I didn't come here to try to change anything. I came here to try to help. And if there's anything I can do to make this better, then that's what I want to do. And we love it, but we've never tried to change anything.
And I think that's the key, right? It's like, people know if you're a good person, people will treat you well. Yes. The majority of people will treat you well. Yeah. If you're a shitty person, the majority of people will probably treat you shitty.
Right. That's what I said. We know if we were to go down to Makaha Beach at 9 o'clock at night and looking for trouble, you're going to find trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not the thing to do. You don't do that.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And to get back to your guys's kind of yearly goal, right? Because I do see you like on track to do this. Like you're closing a lot, and I think like it's kind of cool to see because I know you guys from years ago, right? And we've had over the last maybe 8 years or so, like a new influx of investors coming into the local community here. Some of them are on this call, you know, who weren't really here a few years ago. And now the space has changed a little bit. And, you know, but I know that there's investors out there like yourselves who may not be on the Zoom calls or anything, but are doing a lot of deals and making a big impact that, you know, I feel that should be spotlighted, right? And I think one key thing that you mentioned was about the association and how they don't want you to leave, right? Because they see the value. And so I think it's our job to kind of pierce through that veil of, you know, some of these associations and not force your way through, but build genuinely the relationships and the trust to show them that I'm here to help. You know, if you have a problem unit, which all buildings have problem units, you know, there's one deal in every single building out there, whether they're a hoarder and they want the tenant out, or they're not paying their association fees, or there's a foreclosure, right? Or there's a drug unit, you know, like there's headaches in every single building. And if we can build the relationships with some of those managers to tell them, you know, exactly what we do, who we are, we're not here to disrupt the building or anything, you know, we're here to help.
And we follow their rules. I mean, we're like, give us your rules and we're going to follow your rules. We're not going to, at the very beginning, we go introduce ourselves, and I bring the neighbors donuts, and I apologize. You know, we don't work after the hours that they tell us not to. We clean up after ourselves in the elevator and the walkways and everything. We want to be a positive thing there so they can trust us and know that we're going to do what is right.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of similar to Makaha, right? When you come into a new building, you're kind of coming into, it's like you're coming into a new market,
right?
And so like the first thing you do, it's like it's when in Rome, right? Like you play by the rules, like don't cause chaos and disruption, because then that's a quick way to be outcasted, right? And make the job harder, right? And it is a key thing. I feel like I agree so much with that, because if your crew, think about your crew coming into the building, and if they're, you know, not making the proper calls to get the freight elevator working and ready, and you're just loading and you're scratching up the elevator, that's a quick way to have big problems for your project, and you'll never do another deal in that building, right? So keeping control of the team too, and having your culture and your beliefs reflected through them, I'm sure is a big thing. I mean, have you guys ran into any issues with some of the associations?
So we were in one building and that we were doing work, and you could tell the resident manager definitely wanted to like flex his muscles a little bit. And so, you know, we figured that out. And, you know, we have Kevin, Nick, and Keanu, and they each have different personalities, and they're each a little bit different. But what is good is typically one of those personalities is going to relate really well with that other person. And so I'll play off of that. And, you know, I know, you know, Keanu is Hawaiian, born and raised in Waianae, and, you know, can just pour that dialect on and relate to. Well, this guy wasn't for that. This guy was someone from the mainland that had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder and all of that. So, you know, I knew Nick would probably be the one. They were closer in age, and just chit chat with him. And it ended up being great. But at the very beginning, I could see that he was waiting for us to mess up so he could call us out on it. And he wanted to give us all of these rules. And we were just completely honest all the time, and, you know, always we go and greet them and say hi. We don't try to hide from them, look like we're trying to do anything shady. Always we invite them in to come look at our work. We want them to come see what we're doing and talk about what we're doing. And it was great. It turned out to be wonderful.
Yeah, and maybe just quickly, can you talk about some of the numbers that roughly, like, you're buying for this much, renovating for this much, ARV this much, and holding time?
So in that building that we're at, of course now they're selling to me them higher because I keep buying them in the building and they know, but I am able to sell them for a little bit more. So we started getting them in there about 420. And it was funny when I went to do the appraisal for the ARV, I can't even remember where it came in. It didn't come in that great, but I was like, you know what? I'm not going to stress about that because I know at the end I'm going to get it to where it needs to be. And when I was putting that one on the market, I talked to my broker and I asked her where she thought we should price it. And so she was basing it on what had sold in that building. That's not what I was basing it on. I was looking at everything that was on the LOI that was 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 1 parking. And she kept telling me, I don't know, Shannon, I don't know if that's going to work. Long story short, we ended up selling it for more than what we were asking for. And the appraisal came in higher than even that price. Wow. So I was really concerned that, we may not get it to appraise. And that's why I say also these appraisers, when the gal was talking earlier, I load my appraisers up with information. Them at the property when they're going through it. And I know in Indiana, she wouldn't be able to do that, but I meet them at the property and I give them all of my information. I talk to them about the products that I'm using. I just make sure they have everything they need to know to do the best job. I make friends with them and I think it helps. I haven't had an issue with any appraisals on anything. I think because of that. So then the next one that we bought, I had to pay more for it. I think I paid $450 for it. But then we sold it for $615. And then this last one, so then this next one that we're on, the moment I closed with you guys on purchasing it, the next day I put it under contract because I already had a buyer. He had seen what we had done in the other unit. He knew he wanted it. This was a higher floor. So I have it sold for $631 already. Wow. And we're just doing the same thing that we did.
And what is the typical renovation for a unit like that?
So about 60.
So like 450, 60, and then 630. How much? 630?
Yep.
630. Yeah, that's a nice spread. But I think the key thing that I want to touch on is the speed, right?
Oh yeah, so, we knock them out.
Yeah, it's so fast that like for us, we would always try to shoot for a big margin because things happen, right? And like go over budget, you take a little longer, you sell for less. So there's a lot of issues that can arise that, a 6-figure profit could quickly turn to zero, if you don't watch over the project enough, and if the market turns, quickly.
Yeah.
But like one thing that I always got to keep in my mind is the velocity of capital, right? The velocity of money, where sometimes like if you take a smaller ROI and a smaller net profit, it doesn't mean it's a bad deal if you can turn it quickly, because
we do these in 35 days.
Exactly. So your goal of 15 is definitely not out of reach,
No, we do them in 35. We move fast. We don't, I mean, this property that we're going to do back in Kansas, I'm having the guys go back to do it. I'm giving them 2 weeks. And we literally, we sit down and we list every item that we're doing and we put a man hour to it. And so we have it figured out. And I told them they're going to do 12-hour days. And literally, they're going to have 2 weeks to get this property done. And they'll do it.
So do you guys have like a Gantt chart?
A what?
A Gantt chart, like with the timing of the schedules of different trades, or yeah. So they all have their own time frame to be in and out.
And so all we're bringing in is just a plumber and electrician. The guys do everything else.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, they do everything else. That's the only thing that we have to bring in is those two things. So yeah, I'll have it. I have connections from living back there, and I'll have it all ready to go. I mean, everything. I mean, we'll have a dumpster dumped, we'll have the porta potty put there, and then they'll just gut everything and get after it.
Yeah. Well, okay. A final question, and it's more so like, because I know that there's people who invest in Kansas City on this call right now. In fact, Blaze is one of them. And I do want to leave just a few minutes for questions, because I see that there's some stuff in the chat. But when talking about Kansas City, what do you see the different, like, what is it like building in Kansas City and then building here? Like, I have an idea of what the biggest difference is. But what is it like?
Water
building?
lines are super deep. Here, your water lines are only like 10 inches. So, yeah,
that's a huge difference.
Huge difference.
What about like getting things, like, I'm sure the permit process is different. I mean, you see the vacation rental I guess market is totally different, where Hawaii is totally against it.
Right.
And you're saying that Kansas City, do they support it, or is it kind of neutral?
So from what I'm finding out, they support it. You do have a permit process that you have to do, and you have to look at the zoning, and you have to get neighbors' permission. So there's management companies that will help you with getting that permit. There's attorneys that will help you, or you can just try and do it on your own. It's a weird situation on this house that we found. The person who owns it, there's only really 3 houses on this block, and she owns all 3 of them. And so we're actually trying to work a deal to just get all 3 of them. So then we won't have any issues with neighbors or anything like that. It's what we're going after. But no, so literally we went back last weekend, and we had a house under contract. We went there to look at it, and you literally could see daylight through the walls. So inside you could see outside through the walls. And Kevin's like, no, this isn't. We looked at so many properties. We probably went through 20. And, Kansas has a lot more issues. They're bigger homes. They have basements. You have settling. Kevin's real big on, he can't do crooked. And, there's some flippers back there that are doing really bad jobs, and they're going in and they're not correcting the house. They're just covering up. And, it doesn't always land right when you do that. So there's a lot more that can go wrong. We had the sewer line scoped, and there's some issues with this sewer line that we're having to have addressed that can be fixed, but it's just, there's a lot more that can go. We keep saying, you look at a house in Hawaii, you pretty much see everything. You can crawl up underneath that house if it's, up off the ground, and to change the plumbing and do all that, it doesn't take any time at all. There's old knob and tube wiring, and you have to look at that. And the roofs have attic space in them. And, this had some roof rafters that were a little bit broken, but we were able to use that to negotiate our price, because Kevin said, he can go in there and fix them super fast and easy. But yeah. So it's just a lot different.
Yeah.
These are 100-year-old homes.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, I resonate with that, because when Seattle was the first market I really kind of zeroed in on, looked at the little outskirt neighborhoods. Like, we scouted that market for a year before we actually went in, partly because at the time when we were scouting it, the market was just on fire. It was just like all cash offers, 100 above asking, no due diligence. And it's like, this is crazy. there's no way we're gonna play in this game. And then of course it came down and it started to go back down, and then we went in. But when we went in, it was a huge learning experience because like you got to deal with fireplaces now. It's like I don't know how to deal with a fireplace, like you know, and like there's basements or you know, weatherproofing the house. And like for us in Hawaii, it's like you can have jealousy windows and you're good. You know, you have jealousy windows in Kansas City or Seattle, like in the heat of or in the middle of winter, you'll die.
Right. Yeah. So you have a whole HVAC system that is heat and cooling. And yeah, I mean, this house has the chimney is in bad shape. Kevin just will stucco it and repair it. So it's not a big deal for him at all. Yeah. It's it's so it is different, but there's a lot more that can be wrong with the house than what we run into here. Here, it's just, I mean, termite damage doesn't even scare Kevin so much here, because you can rebuild it, and there's not a lot to it. Where there's just so much.
Yep. Well, it sounds like the goal is let's flip some houses here. Let's do some deals here, and then maybe go buy some properties that's more suited for cash flow, like out in Kansas City, Missouri, which seems to be more of a cash flow market, but also with appreciation, which would be perfect for you guys. You know, like you're in a very strong equity and appreciation market here in Hawaii, and a very strong cash flow and appreciation market maybe in Kansas City, right? So it's exciting to watch your guys' journey. Thank you for letting us and me and my team be a part of it.
Oh, and, thank you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, we'd love to
awesome.
See some of those works, you know, like if you have pictures, like if you can send them my way, I'll post them in the Facebook group, or if you want to post it in the Facebook group, that'll be great. And if anybody wants to reach out to Shannon, because I know Blaze is in Kansas City. There's a bunch of people here in Kansas City. Yeah, and in fact, before we log off, do you want to tell that story that we kind of just found out about somebody who comes on our call? I think it was Gilbert.
Right? Oh yeah. So it was probably just a week or so ago, or 10 days ago. Kevin was in the morning in Eva Beach, and a friend of ours back in Kansas shoots him a Facebook message and says, "Hey, I'm writing an insurance policy for a guy in Eva Beach that is buying or has bought the Jackson Hotel." So the Jackson Hotel is a building in our hometown that Kevin and I bought in 1994. And we owned it until probably around 2007, maybe, is when we sold it. That building was, the city was threatening to tear it down. And Kevin's like, no way are we going to let them tear it down. It had a brick structure that was built in 1921, and then it actually had a wing off the back that was built in like the late 1800s. And so we bought it. We demoed the back part. Kevin spent years demoing the inside. We had parties in the building, and we owned it forever. Never really did a whole lot with it other than we got it demoed and had it all safe and everything. Then we ended up selling it. Well, so she messages Kevin that this guy in Eva Beach has bought it. And every time we go back to Paola, we go and visit the hotel and eat lunch there. And we were just back there in October and had pictures from there. And so she's like, you want his number to call him? And he's like, yeah. So Kevin called him and he's like, yeah. And the funny thing is, I mean, literally I'm sitting right here, and straight over there, I have the old sign of the Jackson Hotel, Paola, with the arrow behind me. I have a big 500-pound safe that we use as an end table. That is the Jackson Hotel safe. Yeah, so we're like, this is crazy. We need to get together and share all the history, because I have all the history on it. I have the old skeleton keys. I have the old index where when people would check into the hotel. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy that he bought that building.
Yeah, and you also mentioned that I think he comes on our call too, right?
Yeah, no, Kevin chatted with them for a little bit, and yeah, we want to get together. I have the original abstract of it that is crazy to go through and see how it was passed through people who got divorced, what happened. And yeah, it's just very interesting.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
what an awesome story. And also, I wish Gilbert was on the call. Congratulate him too, right, for that
Yeah.
takedown. So it's always a pleasure to see, not only when people, in our group, in our community here that we're building, are doing deals and making moves, but also the fact that like a story like that, right, like across the nation, you
Oh
can
my
meet
God.
someone right, your neighbor,
Yeah.
and have amazing stories to tell about the property they just bought. And if
Yeah.
I'm sure if they need any help or resources, like,
Oh my gosh. That's our hometown. I mean, we
yeah,
both, yeah, graduated high school there. Our kids graduated high school. There's 15 houses in that town that we have built or lived in. And yeah, and it's only a town of 5,000 people. So it's a super small little town. Yeah, it's
a
crazy.
town of 5,000 people. What are the odds what are the
Exactly.
odds?
Right.
Well, thank you so much, Shannon, for jumping
Yeah,
on. And
you.
if anybody would like to get a hold of you, what would be the best way? Cell phone or email,
Yeah, or
website?
I can put my cell phone here, but I'm on social media too.
Yep.
So
And we'll be right along your side as you continue your journey this year. And please tell Kevin, we all said
I
hello
will.
and best wishes to you both. And thank you so much again for jumping on. Thank you everybody for a wonderful call, and have a great weekend, and we'll see everybody next week. Hello everybody. Thank you so much, Shannon.